In this video, I want to talk about how I felt about Madden 25 as a game, really just throughout the entire year, and where I think it kind of falls in terms of if I enjoyed it, if I felt like it was a good Madden, etc., etc. I have a list of kind of pros here, a list of kind of cons, and I want to talk through them. First of all, I think something that it's like one of those things that people kept on wishing for, wishing for, wishing for, and then it happened. I felt like it didn't get enough credit that it happened, I guess, is the idea that the offensive meta this year was incredibly different than what it's been in years past by like a pretty wide margin. If you've been around the Madden community for a couple of years now, you've probably heard people scream, it's bunch, 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 bunch. And really, after the first couple of months, bunch was no longer the best formation in the game. Still usable, still solid, and there was a few different bunches, right? Bunch wide, bunch X nasty, bunch wide nasty, all these different things. But regular gun bunch offset or regular gun bunch really just wasn't a thing that people ran at a super high level outside of a few. Instead, things like trips tight end, trips tight end flex, which had never been a meta formation, trips tight end flex became one of the most popular formations in Madden 25 for a long time. It's actually probably my most called formation this year. And then normal Y close, gun number Y close, or gun doubles Y flex close, Y off flex close, I think it's called. Um, Two formations that had never really seen the light of day in Madden too much became the overwhelming meta for the past 3, 4 months, especially if you play online head to head. You'll see those formations a ton, and that's something that people constantly were like, "Man, I just want some other than bunch," and we got it. I don't think enough credit was kind of talked about there, just of like, "Hey, EA actually found a way to get us away from the bunch meta," which is cool. Major props to EA for that. Also, this is I'm gonna talk about this more as a con, but it depends how you view it, so I'll say it. There was a different defensive meta this year, different styles of blitzes, which is I'm gonna talk about. I didn't personally love it a ton, but the next thing I want to talk about is the addition of the switch stick. I think it was one of the best features ever added to the game. It adds a ton of skill gap to both offense and defense, in my opinion. Now, could it use some tuning? Maybe some people say yes. I could see an argument against switch stick. For me, it's a huge positive, and along with custom stemming, outside of the glitch that lasted the first, I think, month and a half of Madden 25 back in August to mid September, I think custom stems were a very good addition to this game. Now you can take an out route and stem them up 15 yards. Now you can take an out route, stem them up 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, right? Any kind of route like that, you could custom stem them different depths. I'm a huge advocate of giving people flexibility in playing the game how they want to play. I think that was a really cool way, right? As long as it still takes skill, of course, right? And whatever skill is objective, but that's how I view it. I think custom stems added a ton of creativity. It allowed more offenses to be usable because a big reason why bunch would always be bunch and be the meta is because there's very specific routes you need for a formation to be good, right? You need very good routes for a formation to be good. And custom stems allowed us to be able to make those good routes out of almost anything. And so we got a lot more flexibility from there. From that, just everything they did from an offensive playbook perspective, I thought they killed it. I've never seen they've never done this before where playbook wise, they added so many usable plays, not only at the beginning of the year, from Madden 24 to Madden 25, but in Madden 25 mid-year, they added in new formations like bunch spread nasty, which were actually good and actually got used, right? Gun tight Y off got a new like set inside of it, right? A couple new plays that aligned a little bit differently that were actually very popular. And that happened in when did that happen? Mid-year. I can't remember exactly when. But mid-year that happened. And that's never really happened before where they added in new plays that were actually good. A few years back, they added in like some split back stuff, like mid-year, maybe like January of like Madden 22. I'm kind of guessing which Madden it was. And it was unusable. It's like, what are we even doing here? It was just dumb. This time though, they actually did a really good job with it. And it's something that I think they're gonna keep on building on. And I love. I think it's awesome, right? Now, October 16th, something happened. They added a deep zone patch. There was a glitch called the pump fake glitch, where if you pump faked, essentially the entire defense would bite down, you get a wide open touchdown. Okay. At that time, I felt like, and a lot of comp players felt like zone coverage was in a really good spot, right? It wasn't overpowered, but it was solid. Zones were doing pretty much what you wanted them to do, what you expected out of them. No more, but also no less. This patch made deep zones much, much worse. As a result of that, we got some of the worst zones, arguably maybe the worst zones that we have ever seen in Madden, at least since I can remember playing. The zones this year were bad, bad, bad. and it was very, very frustrating. It was a very, very frustrating thing that did get covered up a little bit by Switch Stick. Now, I will say, for some reason, this gets like thrown together like, oh, EA only added Switch Stick because they don't know how to fix zones. That's not. Those are two totally like Switch Stick and how zones play. Two totally different things. Switch Stick is something that's in FIFA. They just took that. They've like whenever other EA titles get something, they eventually make their way through pretty much everything that like it correlates to. FIFA gets something. Usually, it comes to Madden a few years after. That's just what happened with Switch Stick. So it's not. There's no correlation between very bad zones this year and Switch Stick, but it was a nice little thing because it, I don't know. It made defense at least a little bit usable, right? In a game where the zones were just they were not what we needed them to be, and that's one of the biggest cons for me is that zones were just really, really bad. Another thing that I kind of depends how you are. I'll throw this into the cons, but for me playing, it was a pro. Overall, though, I think it's a con for the game. The run game was non-existent all year long up until end game in Mutt, where we had 400-pound running backs spinning across the entire field, and we had Vanguard everywhere. For me playing, I love that the run game wasn't good because it made my defense a lot easier. I don't run the ball a ton anyway, so it benefited me. With that being said, from an overall bird's eye view, unfortunate for the game, right? Like I don't think that should be the case. And a big part of that I think is just the movement in Madden 25 was very sluggish, very slow, and EA got that feedback a lot from people, right? Especially with college football, really contrasting, hey, this is what fast gameplay is, this is how fun fast gameplay is. Major, major contrast. And as a result of it, also like Madden didn't have a ton of big plays, which for me as a creator makes the game a lot more fun. I don't know how you feel about that, but for me, even as non-creators playing the game, big plays are fun, right? I also just felt like the defensive meta this year, while it was different than it's ever been, it was it kind of sucked. The blitzing meta this year sucked. And loop blitzes are one thing. I don't mind loop blitzes at all. Like where they actually loop around. The engage blitz, I felt like was one of the dumbest things ever. I felt like it just looked stupid. It looked bad. On offense, it was dumb going against it. On defense, it was dumb running it because it took your user out of the play, but it was also the best way to get pressure. It was just overall dumb, the blitz meta. And then the other one was like the little defensive lineman like stunt over the user. People would do it from 6-1. This was popular back in like probably November, December, January, February. It's still okay. It was just dumb. I was not a fan of it. I'm much more of an advocate of different loop blitzes, stuff like that, where it's I don't know. Maybe that's probably just purely an opinion, but I just thought a lot of those blitzes were just kind of dumb. Endgame in Mutt, I felt like got a little bit out of hand with some of these out of position cards. With that being said, I don't love it. I get why EA does it. It is endgame. Just the amount of like 400-pound halfbacks there was insane. Some of the AP stuff throughout the year was a little bit weird as well. We started off day one having X Factors, like AKA X Factors day one, which was like kind of jarring and like very odd. And I don't totally know why that was. But even with that, I felt like this game was about as different of a virtual football game based on the NFL from last year as it could be. And I'm a very large advocate of I want the games to be different year after year, okay? And I want the game to be functional. Now there was some functionality issues. Zone coverage almost not functional. It was functional. Um it was the biggest like angry thing for me that made me just upset throughout the year was just a gunslinger bug that the ball would get overthrown so often while using gunslinger. That just made me so upset so constantly, but that just is what it is. I didn't mind Madden 25. What I'll say is I wish I'd played College Football 25 more. Um, I think I would have enjoyed that game more. Just it's a little bit. It just was more fun in my opinion than Madden 25. Going forward though, I do think Madden 26 and College Football 26 are going to play more similar than Madden 25 and College Football 25 did. And I think, and they're definitely leaning towards that College Football 25 style in that. And so that gives me a lot of hope for what Madden's going to become. And I did enjoy Madden 25. We uploaded videos almost every single day. If I hated it, I just wouldn't have played it. So keep that in mind too. And there was a good amount of pros. Zone defense being bad was upsetting for me though. Uh, that's something where I'm like, I wish that October 16th patch never happened. I think I'd have a way better taste in my mouth with the game had that patch never ever happened, and we could have just cruised with good deep zones throughout the entire year. We didn't get that, so, you know, what are you gonna do about it? But it's kind of my overall thoughts on it. Definitely didn't hate the game. Wasn't my absolute favorite. It wasn't the most fun Madden. I think my most fun Madden recently, Madden 22. I thought that game was absolutely just objectively hilarious. But nonetheless, let me know how you guys felt about Madden this year, where it ranked in terms of other Maddens, and I appreciate you guys being here. We have some cool content coming on the channel.